Welcome, everybody, to the Nobody Studios Inside Culture Live Show. My name is Sejal Thakkar, and I am the Chief Culture Officer at Nobody Studios. So today we're going to be talking about this issue that's a growing pandemic, right? We are in a different world right now. Organizations are changing overnight. We're having new policies, new procedures. We're in global climates, and we're under more pressure than ever before to perform. And for us at Nobody Studios, we knew that when we're building a globally distributed venture studio during the pandemic, we knew it was a risky move, right? And so we want to make sure we address burnout within our employers. We want to make sure we're doing what we can to create healthier work environments. And we've had to rethink how we're going to do this, especially in a virtual, remote, and global studio like ours. And so we want to redefine what we mean by workplace wellness. And so today we're going to really learn and dig into what can leaders do to keep up with demands and make work less stressful for their employees while also keeping them engaged. And there's no one better than one of our own nobodies, Chester Elton, one of the top subject matter experts to speak with us on this topic. Welcome to the show, Chester.
Oh, listen, I'm delighted to be here. And you're right, such an important subject. And thank you for using your platform to amplify the message and things we can do to make things better for a lot of people.
Yes, no, thank you. When I was preparing for our show today, I read your mission statement, and I just want to read this to everybody because once you understand his mission statement and what he spent like over 2 decades doing and devoting his life's work to, his mission statement is to help create workplaces where employees feel engaged, enabled, and energized. And know, I love this part, know that what they do matter and that they make a difference. And this is so in line with what we're trying to accomplish at Nobody Studios. So Chester, I just wanted to ask you, was there a key turning point that led you to taking this I admire your mission, but to inspire you to doing this mission and helping make this world a better place?
Well, it's such a good question, because we all have these milestones and these pivot points in our careers. And, it just occurred to me, I'd gone through a fairly traumatic change in my career. And we've all had workplaces where we woke up in the morning and the last thing we wanted to do was go to work. In fact, I'm sure a lot of people that are tuning in and listening are familiar with the Sunday night scaries. You kind of go, oh my gosh. And I've had friends where the Sunday night scaries started about noon on Sunday, right? Just the thought of going to work. And I thought, that's not right. We spend so much time at work. So many of our deepest friendships and relationships come from work. How can we make sure that not only is it a good work experience, it's extraordinary. And then when we wake up in the morning, we throw our fist in the air and say, yes, I get to go to work. I mean, what I'm doing is important. I'm making a difference. People are expecting me to be there. And I love to add to that mission statement now that not only do I believe what I do is important and I make a difference, when I make a difference, it's noticed and celebrated, right? And I think that's so important that we feel valued and validated in our work. So
you are speaking my language. Oh my, you are seriously, and you have skyrocketed. You have definitely accomplished your mission. You're one of the most influential voices in workplace trends. You're co-author on multiple award-winning books. We see some of those there next to you, All In, The Carrot Principle, Leading with Gratitude and Anxiety at Work. And then I love what you wrote about how you're most proud, however, to be the father of 4 exceptional children, 3 grandchildren, and happily married to your extraordinary wife, Heidi Olson Elton, for almost 40 years, right? That is incredible. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And so one of the things that we've always said, is that Nobody Studios is going to be defined by the people that we attract to our journey. And so I love asking people, what was it about Nobody Studios that inspired you to join our journey and be a fellow nobody?
Yeah, you were kind enough to give me a heads up on this question, so I've actually thought about a good answer.
Good.
And, what first attracted me was just the positive energy. This idea that, look, we're gonna build 100 companies, and we're going to make a difference. And we're not in it just for the money, although you have to make the money, right, to stay in business.
Right.
We want to make a difference, and we want to make a difference for everyone. I grew up in the era where you got a salary and the company made the money, right? And if you were lucky, you maybe had a 401k program, or if you were really lucky, there was like some kind of pension plan, but of course you had to stick around for 30 years to get that. And that, is just not realistic anymore. The idea too, that you could buy in and have fractional membership for as little as it's like $100, you can be a part of 100 companies. Think about that. And I just love the altruism, the energy, and the idea that at Nobody Studios, which I think is a wonderful name, by the way, nobody's a nobody. Like I live in Jersey now. I grew up in Canada, but in Jersey, nobody is a word you would like. We say that with the Jersey accent. And I love that at Nobody Studios, nobody's a nobody. In effect, everybody's a somebody, and everybody matters. And you can be a part of this wonderful community for, pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, no, I love that. And we always say that name, Nobody Studios, when people come in and we start saying you're a nobody, everybody's taking that and it means something different to all of us, right? Yeah. It's like, for me, there had been periods in my life where I did feel like a nobody, where I wanted to start my business, but I didn't have enough money, or I wanted to invest, but I didn't have $125,000 sitting in my bank account, right? And so there are times where we've all felt like a nobody, and you get to come into a community where you feel like a special somebody, right? And so I just love that. And so let's get into the topic, because I am looking forward to learning from you. You're just, you're so knowledgeable in this area. And, I as I was preparing for this, I'm like, I can think of a lot of 6-letter words that when employees hear them, it's going to cause them to run for the hills, right? The one I want to focus on today is stress, right? We know that employee stress costs somewhere, and correct me if I'm wrong, I got this number from somewhere, but $300 billion annually, right? That employers are spending on dealing with this issue. And so one of the things we know is that we can't eliminate stress altogether, right? We can't remove it from the workplaces. Stress is sort of something that comes along with work, but we can take steps to create a culture of well-being. And so can you share I think this is such an important conversation that we're having, and we need to talk more about this openly. But for leaders specifically, and I think at Nobody Studios, we're all leaders. Every single person there is a leader. But what are some red flags? What are some signs that leaders should be looking out for in their teams, that their team is on the verge of a burnout or they're maxed out already? And again, I would love if you can give us some red flags that apply specifically to organizations like ours, where we're all virtual, everyone's located all over the globe, right? And a lot of us haven't even met in person yet.
Yeah, in fact, I've met a lot of people at Nobody Studios, none of them in person, right? It's all been video chat. One of the things we look at is watch for changes in behavior.
Yes.
Now, anybody can have a bad day. I get that. And look, when we talk about stress, a little bit of stress can be really positive. Get your blood pumping, get you excited for the presentation, the game, the project, whatever it might be. Stress over a long period of time is very detrimental to your health, right? Because you just can't carry that burden for a long period of time. So look for changes in behavior. And what I mean by that is somebody who's always participating is all of a sudden pulling back. Somebody who's always on camera turns off their camera, right? Somebody who is really pretty calm and collected loses their temper, right? So you look for these things. Now, again, anybody can have a bad day if it's persistent. And it happens over time. And so what we've coached leaders to do is, because mental health and because those things are so carefully guarded by people, no one wants to say, I can't take the pressure, right? That's right. There's a stigma attached to somebody who says, I need a mental health day. Now, you can say, look, I sprained my ankle playing tennis. I need a couple of days off. Everybody goes, no problem. You say, I'm overwhelmed at work. I need a couple of mental health days. What's with the Elton kid? Why can't he hack it? So once you've seen these changes in behavior and you're getting that feeling that people are burning out, you approach it in a very interesting way. We talked to a lot of counselors. We talked to a lot of great leaders. And you said, instead of saying, hey, you're burning out, we got to do something about that. That's never going to work, right? You say, I've noticed. Isn't that a wonderful way to say, I've just noticed that, for somebody who's so calm and collected all the time, you've kind of lost your temper. And then you say, I've noticed this, and it's about work. And then the follow-up is, how can I help? I've noticed this. How can I help? Do you need more resources? Do you need more time? Do we need to add, different people? Do we need to adjust deadlines? How can I help? And once you say, I've noticed, and this is where it gets really good, and that gets interpreted as I care. Isn't that interesting? And when you know somebody cares about you, your odds of opening up and having a meaningful conversation go way up. So number one thing, look for changes in behavior. Number two is offer up help. And you start with, I've noticed. How can I help? And it starts the conversation going. Isn't that fascinating?
I love that. And I love that you stress the point of that it's not just a snapshot, because we all have bad days, right? Where you're looking for things that are significant changes in someone's behavior. Like if you work with me, for example, right, at Nobody Studios, you ask anybody at Nobody Studios, what is Sejal like? Most of them are going to tell you the same thing. She's got a lot of energy. Right. She's bubbly. She cracks these jokes that she laughs at and probably nobody else does, but she checks in on us. She asks, so you know that I'm a social person. I like to socialize, right? I'll put these GIF emojis and send these funny comments. But now you notice that Sejal walks into the office and and she closes the door, or she never has her camera on. She's not being social. We haven't heard from Sejal in a couple of days, right? I'm blowing up our Slack channel. I'm all over the place. And now you say, wait a second, she might be having a bad day, right? She might be having, and most of us are resilient, right? Most of us can bounce back. We've gone through a lot in our lives. We know how to be resilient. But even the most strongest people, sometimes when you have, especially like these big things, and we've in the last 3 years, we've seen a lot of big things, the pandemic, we've had to homeschool our kids. There's so many things that even the strongest person, when they're dealing with a lot of those big sort of things in a short period of time, they need support, right? And so I love that you're encouraging us to look out for each other, to have each other's backs. And I can just tell you at Nobody Studios, this is such an important topic because last year, we had several members of our leadership team go through personal crisis, big crisis, not like small things, myself included. I went through a housing crisis where I had to find a home in a very short period of time of what I was going through. And the support that I got from everybody at the studio was, I've never experienced anything like that in my life, right? Where people were texting me, messaging me, are you okay? It wasn't like that message of, oh, wait, she's out for a while. When is she going to get her deadline? It wasn't those. It was more serious. How can we help? And like you said, asking people. It's not always easy to ask for help, is it?
Well, you're touching on something that I wanted to migrate to, and it's exactly that. If you as the leader of the team or as a coworker, if you want to create a culture where it's okay to ask for help, the best way for you to do that is you ask for help. Right. Make it okay. I had a really interesting experience not too long ago. I was doing a virtual presentation. I was up in upstate New York, and because where we were, the Wi-Fi wasn't great. So I went to the local library where the Wi-Fi was fabulous, right? And got my little room, and a presentation that I've done 100 times, right? For whatever reason, I was really stressed about it. I was really anxious. And so I had enough time in the prep and everything to send out a quick text. And I sent a text out to about a dozen friends. Now, the little line there says author, leading with gratitude. I'll tell you, my nickname is, or my moniker, which I love, is the Apostle of Appreciation. Okay. So I sent out a text to a dozen friends and I said, the Apostle of Appreciation has a big presentation. And for whatever reason, I am really anxious. Could you do me a favor and just send me a little text of encouragement? And a dozen texts flowed in immediately, right? We're always eager to give help, and we want to be the helper. I'll tell you what was really interesting, though. And the presentation went really well. By the way, happy ending to the story. One of the people I texted, a good friend of mine, Scott, called me, and he said, thank you for doing that. I never ask for help. I never ask for help. And what you did is you've given me permission to ask for help. See, once the boss does it, once a coworker does it, and it goes well, it's safe. It's safe. Now, I want to share with you a wonderful book for all of you that are tuning in. It's my favorite children's book of all time. It's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Have you ever heard of this book?
I have not.
Get it on Amazon. I think that they've sold millions of copies, and I think you get.
I will.
It's beautifully illustrated by by Charlie Mackesy. He's a artist in northern England.
Okay.
Well, it's a story about a little boy going into the wilderness, and so he's afraid, and he befriends a wonderful, wise old mole. They free a fox from the snare. He joins their little troop, and then this giant, big, gentle horse. Well, as they go through the storms and all the things that they have in the wild, the little boy asks the biggest member of the team, right? The Sejal, who's always happy and always giving, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "What's the bravest thing you've ever said?" And the horse responds and says, "Help."
Mm.
And then he goes on to say, asking for help. And this is the message
Yes.
I really hope that people hear. Asking for help isn't giving up. It
right.
is refusing to give up. So when you want to reduce the stress levels, and when you want to, create a culture of psychological safety and raise the bar to emotional safety,
Mm.
ask for help. Make it okay. I've noticed, how can I help? And then say, do you know what, team? I need your help on this. I'm at my wit's end. Even to the point where you say, you know what? I need a mental health day. I'm
Yeah.
taking Friday.
Yeah.
Whatever we're doing can wait till Monday. And I hope you'll respect that. Isn't that beautiful when you get to that point?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I call it taking timeouts. I just put myself on a timeout. Anybody that knows me knows that when I'm feeling stressed out or there's too much going on, I'll just say, I'm on a timeout right now. And it could be 10 minutes, it could be 2 hours, it could be 2 days, right? And everyone's loving what you're saying here. My friend here, Miriam, Dr. Z, we call her, says, Chester Elton, love your message. Asking for help is a demonstration of self-awareness and inner strength. And so that's perfect segue into the next question that I wanted to ask you, because we have great leaders at Nobody Studios, and everybody takes this topic to heart because we've all had some sort of place in our career at some point where we've gotten to the point of burnout. Most of us at Nobody Studios have experienced this, right? And so, but there's something that happens, right? You have leaders that have good intentions, that want to prevent burnout from happening, want to create these spaces, but then the demands of business, the pressure to get work done, to meet our deadlines. Oh, we've got 100 companies to build. So we've got a lot of things we need to do, right? How can leaders make sure that they're managing both? How can they do both at the same time? And this is I hope all the leaders out there are listening to this, because this is what we need to do. We need to do this more often. And I would say creating a culture of well-being has to be a priority for leaders, because if they do that right, they're going to not only impact their goals that they need to meet, but they're going to blow those out of the water, right? Because they're going to take care of their employees.
Wait.
We've got a guest appearance.
This is my granddaughter, Clara. Wave to everybody, Clara. Hi. And you know what?
Hi there.
I will come play with you in just a minute. Okay.
But you like it?
I don't like it. I love it. Okay. Quick. Go see Baba. Close the door, honey. It's so funny. I was thinking.
I love it too.
Yeah, there you go. It's a little with a carrot on it, which is our mascot, by the way. We always talk about a carrot culture. More carrots, less sticks. So there you go. Your cat, my granddaughter. It's our lives.
Can you give us well, my cat just jumped up here. You saw that, right? I'm like slowly trying to get her.
Yeah. So
what advice do you have for leaders of how do they manage that both? Because it's really, really hard,
It is
for people.
And I've never liked the phrase work-life balance, because I think when you're doing big things, your life is out of balance, right? You're building 100 companies, your life is going to be out of balance, right? You want to be a great athlete, you want to be a great pianist, you want to be a great speaker, whatever it is, your life is going to be out of balance. What you want to look for is work-life harmony. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can find that harmony, and I'm a big fan of symbols and rituals, right? How do you start your day? How do you make sure that, I was just talking to a leader yesterday on our podcast, the Anxiety at Work podcast, and he said, I'm a big fan of blocking your calendar, that there are, you have to be disciplined about it. And you say, from 3 to 4, that's my meditation time, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to go to the gym, or whatever it might be. Because as a leader, if you're not taking care of yourself first, you have no shot of taking care of your people.
That's right.
So what are your rituals, and what are some symbols that you've brought into your life? I read Jay Shetty's wonderful book, Think Like a Monk, and I'm sure many of the listeners have. In there, he challenges you to create your own Buddhist mantra. And I took that to heart, and I thought, I want to start my day in the right mindset, right? So when my feet touch the floor, what's the first thing I'm going to tell myself? And my mantra is very simple. In fact, it's on this little billboard a friend made for me right here. It's too small for you to see, but
Yeah.
it's be kind, be grateful, be of service. Be kind, be grateful, be of service. And if you start your day that way, and then I have some gratitude rituals, in our work, in managing anxiety at work. We said, gratitude is one way to manage anxiety. You can't be in a state of anxiety and a state of gratitude. You can't be in a state of stress and a state of gratitude. So how do you get yourself to that state of gratitude? Writing down 3 things in the morning that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
My wife and I have a ritual at the end of the day. We say, what are your 3? And, starting and ending your day in that positive mindset is really helpful. Now, those are some simple things you can do. Obviously, if you're not getting enough sleep, that's a real red flag. Make sure that you're getting, and I'm sure, Sejal, you're getting a good 3-4 hours of sleep.
Oh no, I get 7 hours. I have to get 7 hours of sleep, Chester. There's no way, because
Excellent.
otherwise my brain needs that downtime. So as soon as my sun started going down around 8:30, I'm shortly right after that. I can wake up earlier. I can wake up at 5 o'clock, but I need my beauty sleep. There's no way around that. So I'm good about that one.
See, and that's a great discipline that you have.
Yes.
And the reason your energy levels can be so high is because you've had a good night's sleep. Are you eating all these things? I'll tell you what's really interesting, though. I just had this conversation with a friend of mine. We went for a morning walk. The secret to a long, happy, and healthy life, and this is validated by the Harvard study, that's over 80 years old. Bob Waldinger is the director there. Look him up on his TEDx talk. It's brilliant. Yeah. The key to that, over 80 years of study, hundreds of thousands of days.
I love that. I love that talk.
I do too. It's deep and meaningful relationships.
Yes.
So again, blocking your calendar, having that discipline. You know what else you should be putting on your calendar? Who haven't I talked to lately? Like, to your point, remote employees. Who haven't I just picked up and said, a phone call? It doesn't have to be a Zoom. Phone call and say, you know what? I was just thinking about you. I want to check in with you. A little text that says, you know what? I was listening to a TED Talk about relationships, and it occurred to me, you and I haven't talked in too long. I mean, this is a dear friend of mine that lives 10 minutes away from me. And we've been trying to go for a walk. That was our thing. We'd go for a walk. It's been 3 months. 3 months. He lives 10 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
Because he travels, I travel, and so on. So as a leader, not only do you want to manage your projects and so on, and get your sleep and so on, make sure you're touching base for people that feed you. Like Sejal. I mean, who doesn't want to spend 10 minutes with you, right?
Oh my God, thank you. I want to spend more time with you too. So thank you for that. I love the tips that you're giving, honestly, because there's so many applications out there. Oh, get on an app here and do this. And that's okay. You can supplement, but what you're talking about is human to human connection. And I think that is so important. I know our leadership team at Nobody Studios is like, how do we stop her? Because I'm like, I need an hour. I want an hour a month for virtual team building. I want an hour a month for leadership. And they're like, you're asking us for our time. And I'm like, exactly. I need your time if we want to do this right? Because we need to build trust. We need to build that psychological safety. That doesn't happen unless we connect with one another, right? And so one of the things we did, and I know you're going to love this, is in our emails. Underneath our emails, we put a disclaimer down saying, I send emails at all hours of the day. Like for me, sometimes I'll wake up at 3 a.m. and I'll send my emails off in that hour time frame. But you don't need to respond right away. You respond when you can respond, right? So letting people know it's okay to set your own boundaries around what works for your schedule and your lifestyle, right? And then another thing that I'm really, proud of what our leadership team is doing to create more engaged employees is checking to see, is this person in the right role? Maybe the position that they're in or their responsibilities aren't engaging that employee, that maybe we need to give them more autonomy. Maybe we need to recognize them more. Maybe we need to, and this is a good thing we can do at Nobody Studios, is because we've got so many different companies. Okay, let's put them in this company and see if it works better for their schedule or for their mental health, right? So there's a lot that we can do. And I'll just add one more thing. Empathy, people. Empathy. Like, we could all use more empathy in this world, and empathetic leaders that can put themselves outside of themselves and see things from their employee or their team's perspectives, right? And that's going to go a long way to getting that employee to feel like they can open up to you and share their struggles and what they may be going through in their own lives, right?
Well, Sejal, I just want to say, hey, keep preaching, because I'm giving you a big amen right here.
Yes.
It is so interesting that, it has been a saying for a long time. It's common sense. And unfortunately, it's uncommonly practiced. We say that people are our most important assets, and then we do everything we can to burn them out.
That's right.
You know, I love when we present on, mental health in the workplace. I'll often ask the audience, and I'll say, hey, raise your hand if you got somebody on your team that is just killing it. I mean, you're a superstar, and everybody's got one. And I said, I mean, they're the ones that they never miss a deadline. They never disappoint you. Their work is always, I said, great. And what do you do with those superstar employees? And this one guy in the back goes, we load them up, baby. I go, that's right.
That's right.
They'll always deliver. That's the thing. And because people are really good about hiding their mental health, your top performers, I guarantee you, are your most anxious, most stressed employees. Be really careful with them. Make sure you're checking in with them on a regular basis. And the message is, I care, right? And look, you always say yes to everything. There's no way everybody can say yes to everything, right? So let me know if you need help. If I need help, I'm going to ask for help and give them permission to move forward. Because when you know that your team cares, like you said, people are going through hard times personally. Somebody calls, somebody say, heads up. Of course, that means the world to you. Yes. Of course, knowing that somebody cares means the world to you. And what happens? You get through that and you come back to Nobody Studios. Are you going to perform even at a higher level? Of course.
That's right.
They cared about you. You care about them.
Of course. It's like you. I love that. Common sense is not so common these days. I say that all the time. But I'll tell you, it starts with leadership. It always starts with leadership. So if you see your leaders and they're constantly like, I'm working 50 hours a week and I'm not taking time off, that's going to send a message to your teams, right? And so I actually just talked to our chief nobody this last week because I attended this excellent presentation by Dr. Z. And I said, I want 10 minutes at our next leadership team meeting because I want to make sure that our leadership team is taking care of themselves and they're not getting burned out, right? So on Monday, I'm actually having Dr. Z come to our leadership team meeting and present to our leadership team to make sure they're taking care of themselves and that they spot the signs of burnout. So everything you've said, I'm so grateful that you were here with us today. Is there anything else you want to add to shed light on this topic?
Yes, and it's this, that the people are really good at hiding it. Somebody breaks their leg, they've got a cast, that's easy to identify. And make sure that you're touching base with people. Your mission as a leader, and I got this just Monday this week. I have a wonderful mentor, and many of you will know his work. Marshall Goldsmith wrote a wonderful book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Arguably, actually not arguably, is the greatest executive coach of all time. And I got to spend some time with him. It was his birthday celebration. And he said, you know what? We as leaders, we've got to understand that our message to the people that come work with and for us is simply this. As a leader, I just want to make your life a little bit better. Yes. I just want to make your life a little bit better. And then he added, and mean it, which I thought was
right.
Don't just say it, mean it. Little Clara came in here. And one of the sweetest moments I have with being Clara's pop-up is when we're putting her down at night and we're reading stories and doing whatever. Every now and again, she'll say, hey, Pop-Up, will you just hold my hand? Mm-hmm. Will you just hold my hand? There's something really special about holding a little girl's hand as she's trying to get to sleep. Well, you know what? Our employees are very much like Clara. Mm-hmm. They just want a little assurance. They want to know that you're there.
That's
that
right.
You'll hold their hand and that you're going to do everything you can to make their lives just a little bit better. And boy, if you can get to that, you're going to have a great company, great community. You're going to do amazing things because engagement goes up, productivity goes up, trust goes up, stress comes down.
Well, I am so glad you're a nobody. And I know you're going to keep us honest on this, Chester. And I look forward to just exploring ways that you and I can co-create our culture together and make sure that we keep this a priority. So look, everybody, I hope you got some great tips from this incredible human being that's on this journey with us today. Nobody Studios is starting a movement, right? We are creating a movement. The momentum has started. We're doing our equity crowdfunding campaign right now. It goes till April 7th. Join us. It's a minimum of $100 to invest to support what we're doing. But more importantly than that, I want you to come and bring your talents, your skill, your ideas to the studio. Talent, influence, and capital are going to be the three things that make our world go round. So check out our website, nobodystudios.com. We've been putting the link in for where you can go to learn more about what we're doing. Chester, thank you again for being a guest. I know you've got so much going on, and I really, really appreciate you being here. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week at Nobody Studios Culture Inside Live. Thank you, everyone. Bye.